Dad blamed my baby sister for our mom's death, so I made sure he'd die alone. Charlotte came into this world screaming while Mom left it bleeding, and in that hospital room, Dad decided a 6-pound infant who couldn't even hold her own head up was somehow the villain in his tragedy. I was 18, working overnight shifts at the factory when the nurse handed me my sister. Dad sat in the corner like a statue, refusing to even look at her. When the nurse asked if he wanted to hold his daughter, he just said, "Take it away, not her, it." We used to be happy, the kind of family that actually loved each other, but that version of Dad died with Mom in that delivery room. Looking at Charlotte, I knew she'd never experienced the father I once had when his drinking started before we even left the hospital. Whiskey for breakfast, beer for lunch, and whatever was left for dinner became his new routine. By the time Charlotte was 2 weeks old, Dad had perfected his morning ritual of stumbling to the kitchen, grabbing a bottle, and disappearing until dark. I kept telling myself he'd snap out of it eventually, that we were both grieving, and he just needed time to remember he still had 2 kids who needed him. Then I found Charlotte one morning soaked through her onesie with a diaper so full it had leaked onto the mattress. She wasn't even crying anymore, just whimpering softly, while Dad lay passed out on the couch with an empty bottle. The smell hit me when I realized she'd been lying in her own waste for hours, maybe all night. When I picked her up, she barely weighed anything, and that's when it became crystal clear that if I didn't step up, she'd die. I started using my own money for the good formula, and making sure she always had a fresh diaper. At 3 months old, whenever Dad walked by, her whole body would go still. And by 6 months, she'd learned not to cry when he was home. What kind of baby learns that? Then Dad's grief turned into something uglier. Should have given it away, he'd mutter when he thought I wasn't listening. Could have dropped it at the fire station. Let someone else deal with the thing that killed her. When I asked him once why he didn't just leave if he hated seeing her so much, he laughed with a bitter sharpness that cut through the air. And let everyone think I'm the asshole who abandoned his kids after his wife died? No thanks. So he stayed and acted like we didn't exist, and he was extremely good at it. But the moment that broke me came on a weekend when Charlotte had a fever and wouldn't stop crying. Dad stormed into her room at 2 a.m. and yelled at her to shut up, not with baby talk or gentle shushing, but with loud, raw anger. She looked at him with tears streaming down her face and just froze with that little shoulder hitch like she was bracing for impact. 3 years old and already flinching. I decided right there I had to step up, because I knew he never would. I'd already been taking care of Charlotte since day one, but after that night it was different. I wasn't just her brother filling in anymore, I became her dad. I gave up my college acceptance letter and took a better position at the factory that made my back ache and hands raw, because she needed stability more than I needed a degree. Every bedtime story became a promise. Every scraped knee I bandaged was a chance to show her she was loved. Every nightmare I soothed was proof someone would always be there. I made sure she had the loudest cheering section at every preschool play, the biggest birthday parties with kids from her class, and someone who never missed a parent-teacher conference. When she handed me that first Father's Day card made with crayon and glitter glue, I framed it and hung it where Dad would see it every morning. 2 more years of this, until the confrontation came at Charlotte's kindergarten graduation, which surprised me since Dad actually wanted to attend. He'd been sober for 2 months thanks to his new girlfriend, and thought a cap and gown ceremony was the perfect place to reclaim his role. After Charlotte received her diploma and ran straight past him into my arms yelling, "Daddy!" I saw something snap in his face. That same night, he waited until Charlotte was asleep before cornering me in the hallway. "Why does my daughter call you Dad?" His voice shook with rage. I stayed calm. "Because I've been her father since the day you decided she killed Mom. I changed every diaper, taught her to walk, held her when she cried. You know why she calls me Daddy? Because I earned it while you were too busy hating her for existing." He stood completely still as something broke behind his eyes. "You're both dead to me," he said quietly. "Don't ever call me for help." I almost laughed. "Dad, I haven't been able to rely on you since Charlotte was born." He backhanded me hard across the face, and that's when I saw Charlotte watching from her doorway, clutching her teddy bear. He looked at her, then at his hand, before grabbing a whiskey bottle and walking out. The sound of his truck starting was the last we heard from him. I moved us into an apartment 2 weeks later using every penny I'd saved. The rest was history. Charlotte grew up in that tiny 2-bedroom, never knowing she was supposed to miss someone who'd never wanted her. I worked doubles, then triples, making sure she had dance lessons and birthday parties and everything a kid deserved. She stopped asking about the old house after a month, stopped mentioning the mean man after 2. We became our own family, just the 2 of us figuring it out together. Some nights I'd watch her sleep and wonder if I was enough, but then she'd wake up calling for Daddy, and I'd know we were exactly where we needed to be. That was 24 years ago. Yesterday, I walked her down the aisle and gave her away to an incredible young man who loves her the way she deserves. And Dad, he spent his last years alone and died the same way.